I'm going to present very briefly what we do in Pulsar, Public Sector Accounting and Reporting Program. Specifically, it's education community of practice, recent research done in different parts of the world on the public sector accounting education model. And also one of our recent tool, which I believe PEMNA had the chance just to get access to, it's Pulse, our diagnostic IPSAS diagnostic tool, and the elements which indicators which refer to the capacity. So let me just share in parallel my screen presentation. Let's go ahead. So now we are here with our research of the global research done by Pulsar demonstrates that there are different models of public sector education, accounting education. So in one model, there is a Ministry of Finance, which plays a key role, leading role in setting the standards for professional accountants and both initial professional development, that is at university or PAO level, professional accountancy organization, and continuing professional development levels. While Ministry of Education sets the standards for education programs offered by higher education institutions. So this is one of the approaches. Second approach, which we see in countries globally, when the professional, public sector accounting is self-regulated by professional accountancy organization. And third model is when we have a hybrid approach where regulators closely coordinate their effort in regulating PSA professional education with professional accountancy organization. So now let's see what are our country examples which we saw. So we have Ministry of Finance or Public Administration Institute or Ministry of Finance training centers which deliver training of trainers program to provide specialized public sector accounting training to the rest of the government officials. For example, it is in Georgia when we trained the trainer delivered the training jointly with Ministry of Finance, and then they rolled it out to all around public sector. National education, higher education institutions. This is comparably rare when we have higher education institutions developing their specific training of, let's say, bachelor or master level program on public sector accounting only. As an example, we have Ukraine, which has this program, dedicated program. National professional accountancy organizations, of course, I think this is quite popular when we have public sector professional accountancy qualification certification delivered by by the local PAOs. Its examples are Mexico and Philippines, or IPSAS diploma developed by professional accountancy organizations, example Zambia. We have international PAOs, of course, many knows about ACC, AKF, SIPFA certification programs and trainings. Example, Armenia, where they use ACCA material and translated it into the local language using the international PAOs programs. If we have in parallel international accounting firms, and Patrice is going to share PwC experience, it is IPSAS in a box by PwC. Example, in Georgia, we had 500 accountants and auditors being trained using that tool. And of course, there is a major influence by international development agencies like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, IMF, and other our partners, which development of the professional accountancy education is part of our lending or technical assistance programs. And Pulsar, our regional program, which is for 13 countries in Europe and Central Asia, is part of that broader initiative. So these were country examples. So where are our key findings in this research, global research? We saw that transition to IPSAS has increased the focus on the need for improving the skills of PSAs, public sector accounting, relevant to the public sector. So, however, in most cases, there is no consistency. So, no specific qualification or certification requirements for the public sector accountants. Second is most of the countries choose to regulate public sector accountancy education through the mixed approach of the Ministry of Finance bearing responsibility for setting the requirements for accounting professionals, and Ministry of Education is setting requirements for curricula. at university level. And this is all done in cooperation with professional accountancy organizations. The third finding is that the main trend for public sector accounting education at the initial professional development level is partial inclusion of PSA-related subject in the courses offered by the university, partial inclusion as part of bachelor's or master's program, aimed at training of the accountants of more general specialization, not necessarily narrowly for the public sector accounting. However, this approach is limited. Rarely countries were able to develop standalone higher education programs in public sector accounting. And we saw in our experience it was Ukraine, but there are not that many countries which have it. The key findings continue here: a lack of systemized approach. So we see global lack of systemized approach to providing training for public sector accountants, including the absence of standalone qualification program, as already discussed at bachelor's and master level, evidence of the gaps in basic knowledge of aspiring accountants who seek the work. So the public sector, the weak of capacity, also one of the reasons that there is a lack of systemized approach. PAOs play a vital role, professional accountancy organization, in shaping the education, training, and professional development. And as Shura said, both in the private sector, but also in the public sector, as they contribute to the integrity, efficiency, and effectiveness of financial management in the relevant sectors. Our next finding is that, however, in most of the countries, the professional accountancy organizations are focused on the private sector as they were historically focused on. As a result, there is a lack of oversight over public sector accountants and no specific professional certification or continuing professional development courses aimed at PSAs. Many professional accountancy organizations are required to undertake CPDs, continuing professional development. But this requirement mostly apply to their members. And in many cases, when public sector accountants are not members of the PAOs, or they are out of this CPD, continuing professional development requirements. So what were the conclusions of this research? The conclusions were the main challenge is the fragmentation. So the key word here, the key challenge is fragmentation. The challenge of efficient system of education of public sector accountants in a manner of its implementation. It's very fragmented implementation. Initial professional development offered by universities and professional accountancy organizations have limited coverage of public sector topics. So it's only probably a few sessions, a few sort of limited modules. So it is not the coverage which we would like to see. IPSAS implementation reforms drive many countries to make significant efforts to implement or improve a coherent and comprehensive system of education, training, and certification of professional accountants as also part of continuing professional development. So IPSAS was a major also drive for capacity building. These reform efforts are often supported by international donors, as discussed, and in many countries we saw that they are one of the key drivers of making things happen in the terms of capacity building. And our Pulsar program, regional program, is actively supporting participants in driving these essential reforms. We develop knowledge products, we organize regional capacity building, also for training of trainers programs and more. Let me now briefly go to our PULS framework. As it was previously presented, I will make it only focus on the capacity building indicator. So public sector accounting assessment PULS framework, it's online assessment tool, it's IPSAS diagnostic tool, which assesses implementation of IPSAS in a country, and not only about standards, but its application, its framework, reform, and momentum, and overall environment. So it looks into much broader aspects for the 6 dimensions and pillars, and we have also a performance indicator dedicated to the capacity building, PI 27. And here it's human resource and capacity, assesses the extent to which the reporting entity can rely on relevant skills and knowledge in strengthening public sector accounting and preparing standard-based financial statements. The performance indicator or PULS indicator has the following 3 dimensions. First is accrual accounting competencies, so assesses the competencies. Second, assesses professionalization of the public sector accounting function. And third, assesses appropriate staffing level to manage, implement reforms. I will briefly go. Of course, you will have the slides to go through those and to look at into this tool. And this tool will be available online, free of charge for any country which would like to conduct their assessment. It's very similar to PIFA, but it's online and available to anyone. So first, dimension 27.1, it's accrual accounting competencies. It establishes the entry requirements, assesses the entry requirements for public sector accountant as an indicator for existing accrual accounting capacity and intensity of training required. For example, a non-competency-based discretionary recruitment practice of a non-standardized recruitment process will likely result in insufficient accrual accounting skills, which is the lowest performance. It will be rated D, as in PIFA. D is lowest, A is the highest. And proficiency with the applicable accounting framework and the formal accounting qualification requirements for entry to the public sector to become a public sector accountant, this will be qualified for A rating. Second is professionalization of the public sector accounting function. This is about the maintenance and building of the capacity of public sector accountants, assesses that one, and also a competency framework, whether it serves as a basis for designing training programs, so ongoing training programs, just to keep to stay up to date with the developments. And as a state-of-the-art tool in line with international standards, it either needs to be adapted to incorporate accrual accounting competencies to get A or B scores, or has not, or has to be established. So D is like when there is no any entry, any building capacity building process in place for public sector accountants. And the third one, the last dimension, is appropriate staffing level. Just to make a note that this does not assess the staffing level in each and every government institution, but it's about the adequacy of human resources just to prepare and implement the reforms, such as drafting legal documents, handbooks, training activities, IT adoption, project management, and coordination. These dimensions, I noted, does not assess whether the accounting function of a specific level of government is adequately staffed per se, but focuses on the reform capacity of the responsible authority. In many cases, this is the Ministry of Finance. So those requirements are available, and this pools provide a consistent assessment throughout the countries and across the countries, as the PIFA framework is. So it will help PEMNA member countries, beneficiary countries, to apply it. And let's compare from time to time, and also between countries, what is the progress made in this direction. I kept in the annex some more details about POOLS tool, so in case you would like to refer to that. Thank you very much.